rough. Few solid niggas left, but
If I had a penny for every time someone asked me what markers do I use, I'd be able to buy a full set of Copics. And that's the problem, because Copics are my favourite markers, but because they're top of the line, they're really expensive. And some of the packs that often claim to save you money come with colours that you're just never going to use. And so that's why I'm making this video, to help beginners make the best choice when buying alcohol markers. Copics are a really good investment if you're taking art seriously, and a big reason is because of the refills that they offer. One thing to note is, whilst I mostly use Copics, you can actually combine them with any alcohol marker brand. And I think getting a pack of ohuhu markers is a great cheaper alternative to test whether you like the medium, and you can use them to fill in any gaps in your colour spectrum. Links to all products are in the description. One last thing is to make sure you are using the right paper. Do not use normal printer paper, and do not use anything with a rough or grainy texture. My preferred sketchbook is Talon's Art Creation, and I'll also have that linked, but just make sure you have spare paper beneath your page to avoid any bleed through. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my Copics divided into 4 sections. You've got your greys, your reds, yellows and purple, skin tones, and blues and greens. You'll also notice that I have a mix of Copic Chow and sketch markers. Other than the build, there's no difference except the sketch having more ink and being more expensive. So I definitely recommend Chows to begin with. Now, greys are extremely important for colouring, and if you've ever tried to buy a grey Copic, you'll have been overwhelmed because Copic offer exactly 46 different shades of grey. Not quite 50, but it's a lot, and they come in cool grey, which is grey with a bluish undertone, warm grey, which has a more red or yellow undertone, neutral grey, which is just in the middle, and toner grey, which is between warm and neutral. So I'm going to simplify it for you. Forget about the other groups and start with cool grey. They are easily the most used in my collection, and they're just perfect for adding a nice cool shadow. Now this is the one time where I would recommend getting the 5-pack, because you're going to want to have a solid range of greys, even if you don't have any colours at first. But if you can only get 2, I'd recommend C3 and C7. Next up, we've got red. Now I should probably mention how the Copic classification system works. First, you have the letter representing the colour family, in this case R for red. But you can also have multiple colour families like BG, which represents blue-green, and special ones like fluorescent yellow-green. Then you have 2 numbers, the first of which represents saturation, and the lower the number, the greater the transparency. After the first number, you can have multiple digits like this E000, and this number represents brightness, with 9 being the darkest and 000 being the lightest. So now that you understand the system, you'll realise that R29 and R27 are the exact same saturation level, but are completely different values. The closer these numbers are, the easier to blend. With that out of the way, what red should you start with? The answer is R27, cadmium red. Then, if you want a light red, go with R14, light rouge, and for a dark red, go with R59, cardinal. These work perfectly well with each other. For yellow, I'm going to recommend you the Y17 golden yellow for a nice bright primary colour, and if you want to go lighter, Y15 cadmium yellow. And to go darker, I'm actually going to suggest that you blend with a different colour family, like the earth tones or the yellow reds, which are basically oranges, and a bonus one for the yellow family would be Y28 Lionette Gold, which is super convenient, not just for gold but also for blonde hair. For your blues, I'm going to recommend B24 Sky Blue as a nice primary blue. For your darker blue, grab B37 Antwerp Blue, and for a lighter blue, grab B16 Cyanide Blue. With the primaries out of the way, I'm going to move on to the next most important group, which is the skin tones. Now, I've got to admit, the earth tones are a bit all over the place within the Copic system, but for a darker skin tone, E17 reddish brass for a nice brown. For highlights, E35 chamois, and for a darker brown, E29 burnt umber. For white pale complexions, go with E00 cotton pearl for the midtone, E000 pale fruit pink for the lighter skin, and E11 barley beige for a nice tan. But of course, skin can be coloured using very different colours like a blue or a red undertone, and something I like to do is add R20 blush for areas like the nose, cheeks or ears where the skin is more transparent. So now you've got every essential colour to get you started, but there's still a couple of pens that you're going to want to add to your collection. So let's start the bonus round. Starting off with BG13 Mint Green for absolutely no other reason than it's one of my favourite colours and it looks absolutely amazing. Now yes, whilst you can mix a green with what you have, it's much easier to just go and get a standard green like G05 Emerald Green or G17 Forest Green. And then number 3, same goes for purple, and the best purple you can get is V09 Lavender. And for number 4, I'm cheating a little, we've got a toss up between YG23 New Leaf and G21 Lime Green. Both very different greens that you'd look at and think, not going to use that often, but actually this one's run out and I've already got ink refill for this one. Last but not least, I'm going to recommend the colourless blender. You might be thinking, well, that's not even a colour, and you're right. Bruh. But actually, this is one of the most versatile pens, because it can help with blending colours, lightening colours, and even removing mistakes. There you have it. I hope this helped you out if you're new to Copic, and if you're not, what are you doing here? But anyways, let me know if you agree with my list or not, and stay tuned for my top tips for colouring with Copics.